And we're doing that this morning, Richard. So I'll see you later. I know you're going to get to work investigating that water story and what we're doing.
I'm going to go hydrate.
What you're doing to replenish that water in the Detroit River. Sheriff Mark Hackel from out in Macomb County is with us. Hello, Sheriff.
Good morning, Frank. How are you today?
I'm okay, but I'm wondering how we put that water back on the Canadian side, because if we'd stolen it the way the Canadian government says we have, we would have the Detroit Falls going right now over toward Windsor. So clearly we've replenished it.
I think you're right.
I don't know. The Canadian government's worried we've stolen the water. So it's one of the wildest stories of the year, I'll tell you that.
That and a bridge issue.
I suppose. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Merry Christmas to you.
And to you as well, thank you.
You've got some issues out there. A couple of bank robberies yesterday, right before Christmas. It's not totally unusual to have a spike in crime before a holiday like this, is it?
Well, I think with the economic situations we're seeing, we've been having quite an influx of larcenies, as well as you just mentioned, bank robberies. This year seemed to be on a high note, if you will, for law enforcement agencies with bank robbers. But again, home invasions, auto theft, people stealing, the different metals and actually taking catalytic converters. I mean, it's been an interesting year for us in law enforcement. The demand for our services has increased as a result of the economic problems.
Wait, people are stealing catalytic converters from cars?
Oh yeah, it's a very popular thing. And again, it's because of the metals that are in there, and it's difficult because an owner of a vehicle, doesn't recognize it or notice until they start driving away. That something has happened. It's not difficult for them to do those type of things if and when they decide to slide under somebody's car. They do it rather quickly.
What is the metal that's in such demand in the catalytic converters?
There's some precious metals that are in there that I'm not sure exactly what they extract from it, but they're worth some money.
Huh. The home invasions are what scare everyone. You say we're seeing an increase in those?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, we've seen them throughout this county. There's been quite a bit of an increase in home invasions, and again, that's a scary thing. I think most people would recognize, once they've had that happen, a lot of people try to sell their homes or move out of their condominiums when that takes place. And again, we're getting a rash of it, and it's not unique to anywhere in particular in Macomb County, but the Tri-County area. And again, a lot of times there's people looking for some something to take with them to either sell or maybe there is some cash laying around that they're actually taking out of these homes.
Sure. A lot of times when we hear about home invasions, we hear about gangs or groups that are doing that. Is that the case now, or is this more widespread?
No, I don't think so, Frank. I think what you have is just people that are desperate, and during these desperate times, people are doing some very desperate things, and it's unfortunate. A lot of times it's the age group we're talking about is between 17 and about 34 years of age. People that are actually stealing, and many times it's people that are familiar with that subdivision or that particular area. They'll hit an area for a while, and then they move to another location. And for us in law enforcement, it's difficult, but we have to work together as law enforcement agencies to share information. About a little bit of the information we get from one person, we share in our detective bureaus with other agencies. Mm-hmm. So it's important for the public to let us know. They see something suspicious, don't just write it off and say, well, maybe it wasn't anything. That description of a vehicle or a person, time of day when something may have happened is important to us in our detective bureaus, and we work with other agencies. The criminals don't know no boundaries. They pretty much just go to different areas and try not to be caught. But we in law enforcement have to start sharing that information to help us resolve some of these cases.
Are you doing that now? What are you hearing from the adjoining counties and even where the bank robberies are concerned from the FBI?
Well, again, that's been more of a local issue. The FBI, when they took a look at their top 10 priorities, they let us know, law enforcement agencies, that bank robberies were going to be our issue to deal with, for prosecution at the state or local level. Yet they're still there to help us and assist us if they start to see a rash or a problem with it. And we've been working with them because there have been numerous bank robberies taking place. Again, there's a lot of sharing of information now, more so than ever, in law enforcement, whether it's local, county, or state. We're bringing our resources together to try to help resolve many issues, and one of them being our obviously home invasions and even the bank robberies you just referred to.
Yeah, the home invasions you're seeing, are these mostly occurring while the homeowners are away from the residents?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of daytime breaking and enterings where people are actually going into the homes during the day. I mean, and again, these people that are breaking into the homes, they're pretty smart about it. I mean, they don't just arbitrarily drive down the street, pull in somebody's driveway, and just go bang in a door. They'll sit and they'll case a place, they'll watch it, and try to see what activities have been happening, and sometimes they may do it over a course of a few days. to try to determine whether it's safe to go into that particular house or location.
Yeah, I also heard that right now there's a concern in law enforcement about driveaways. People are warming up their car in the driveway and having it stolen.
Yeah, that's a big concern. Auto theft has always been a problem. We're actually seeing probably one of the biggest problems we're seeing with auto theft right now, and we're investigating it, is the fraud. And that some people just can't make their payments. Their payments are upside down, and they're just trying to get rid of the vehicle so they get rid of the payment. That's troublesome to us. But again, there are legitimate thefts that are occurring where people are taking cars, and there are times where people are leaving their cars, in their driveway or at a convenience store, and somebody needs it for a mode of transportation. They're jumping in and just taking off because that car is unlocked and they happen to have the keys in the ignition. And we are seeing that. We're probably getting about one a day, maybe two a day here in the county.
Wow. Well, good luck with all of this, and we hope the economic times get better. It's never acceptable to turn to crime, but I suppose that when this happens, as you said earlier, people do become desperate, and they do things that they wouldn't normally do, and it's a shame because now they're jeopardizing the rest of their lives as well.
Yeah, and again, and just to kind of make a point, if I can, it's interesting. In law enforcement, we respond to these things, we deal with it, we understand sometimes with the compassion. We had two fathers. It was like a week apart, didn't know each other, but from a very similar area in the county. Went to the very same store, grocery store, and we got called there because of larceny. And when the deputies got there, they'd found that both of these fathers in the situation were stealing formula and baby diapers from the grocery store. And I mean, that made us sit back and think in law enforcement, there's a lot of desperation out there, people doing things. Doesn't make it right, but obviously the situation is pretty sad. I mean, when you stop and think about the reality of fathers, going to a store and this is what they're stealing, just to try to make ends meet. So, these economic times are really extremely troublesome, and even us in law enforcement, we're responding to these things, are trying to be somewhat compassionate, but there's still no reason to steal. And our bigger concern is when somebody, goes into somebody's home. I mean, that is just that's a terrible thing, horrific for anybody to have to come home or even be home and realize somebody has broken into it. So it's a difficult thing for law enforcement to deal with, but we're trying to manage it. But we need the public's help. Anytime they see something, hear something, please don't just write it off. Bring it to our attention, and we'll try to see what we can do and assess the situation.
All right, Sheriff, thanks for the time this morning. I hope it gets better for you and all the law enforcement people around our area. Thanks for what you do all year. Have a Merry Christmas.
And thanks, Frank. You have a Merry Christmas, too, and a great New Year.
And you as well. Sheriff Mark Hackel out of Macomb.